You're listening to Brunch. We've got a full plate going on this morning. We may even go and extend this just about 10 or 15 minutes beyond our usual time. David Nakhid is the founder and director. But if I start with him talking about his organization, maybe I should start with him with his football years. Or maybe I should just talk to him about being FIFA president. That is a big move. But a big move comes from a big heart and a big background, if you care to. David, all right, if you don't want to can, just fine. We can just talk right here. Let us start, and I'm going to start on the outside and then go back in. Let us start with this this desire, this ambition to go up there and make right what is wrong in FIFA. What led you to that sort of thinking? Let's talk about that.
Well, it was a considered move. We looked at the situation within FIFA and we saw the vacuum of leadership that was there, not only on the global level, but at the regional level. And we felt this was the right time for someone from the Caribbean to step up and have a voice for the Caribbean and really represent our values, our ideals, and our aspirations.
And there's definitely a void that has been created in the Caribbean, and I'm happy that you're looking to step up to that. But I get the feeling from what I'm reading, and I should editorialize here. Someone said that the United States couldn't get football, so they told the executive to the United States, and now they have all of FIFA. But that's another thought. In the area of the system of FIFA itself, has it been, in your view, over the years, good for the Caribbean?
No, it has not. Indicative of that is that when our representative from the Caribbean left FIFA and left football, that we were left with nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean nothing at all levels. There has been no infrastructural development over the last 30 years. I've gone through the Caribbean to many of the islands, and I see the same fields that I saw and played on 20, 25 years ago. There has been no proper coaching development, no proper player development, no proper development in terms of what can be brought in to the Caribbean as an event other than the Caribbean Cup. We have the premier event of CONCACAF, which has never been staged within the Caribbean, which has the 75.6% of the voting block within CONCACAF.
Is this because of bad representation, or is this because of a very bad policy coming out of FIFA towards the Caribbean?
To be honest, Rennie, that has nothing to do with FIFA. That's totally because of the lack of representation. It was not only bad, it was non-existent. The Caribbean and CONCACAF was, by extension, a vote for the powers outside of this region. So what we thought was representation was an illusion, was someone who represented himself, and we don't want to be defined by that past. We want to be defined going forward by what we want to represent. And we think now is the time to do that.
All right, take me into the academy, because so folks understand not only your playing experience, but let's talk about the International Football Academy. Run through what that is about, because that sets the foundation of what you did into phase 2. Phase 3, of course, of the plan would be to become president of FIFA. So let's say the intermediary step. Let's talk about the International Academy. Tell us about that.
Well, I think it was a natural transition for someone. I've been captain for most of the teams that I played on. And I felt that opening up an international football academy really would speak to the things that I believe in, which is working with kids, working with development, and projecting a level of football that goes beyond where we are from. And Lebanon virtually mirrors the same problems that we have here in Trinidad and Tobago. It's pretty much identical societies, to be honest. I mean, there's a little more chaotic because of the civil war and things that happened. But here we have chaos, but it's all under control, so to speak.
So there is chaos, just one is managed and one is not.
Exactly. So
one is circumstantial and the other one.
But that managed chaos is at some point in time is gonna manifest itself in other ways. In football, it's pretty much the same. So I felt by opening up my academy and with the contacts that I had within Europe, that we could really do things, and we've done that. We travel twice yearly to Europe to Barcelona, to London, to Germany or to France. And I put my kids in situations where they're challenged, where they have to present themselves at a higher level, play at a higher level. And it's been amazing. You know, we've been going 8 years to Barcelona, and the results have only improved, and we've progressed. And we have players now who are on scholarships in America, who have trials in Europe. And I think it has been a culture shock for the Lebanese parents and the Lebanese society, because now we've just been offered a contract by the European Union to put on their clinic for 300 Syrian refugees. So I think the recognition is coming from outside of the Middle East region. And I think that's something that we can feel proud of our management structure and proud of our coaches, to be honest.
And it's one of the things that doing the research for you is that you go beyond yourself a little bit out to youth, because a lot of folks don't see football is the biggest game in the world. We all understand that.
Exactly.
There's a lot of money out of football. How much of it is going back into development is the area that you want to deal with. But there's a social component here that folks don't understand. At the outset, when folks talk about gangs, one of the things you hear is the need to belong, to become something, to be part of something. And I think football avails young men, women now, but young men primarily to something that they feel a part of, they can excel in. There is a certain regimentation in football, as in any sport, that brings them to a place where they feel welcome. And of course, it takes these young minds and form them, as you were saying. Elaborate on the social component of what you're doing for me, please.
Well, that's exactly what it is. Out of the global footballing world, you're going to have 5% maybe who become elite professional football players. So you have that, all those others that are basically playing the sport because of love, of passion, to belong, as you said, to an entity, and it manifests itself by people going into something that can be bigger than themselves. And that really points to what we are saying here about social responsibility, because you feel that you have to fit into a team. You have to, I wouldn't like to say be it's not so much as being a regimental thing, but it gives you an opportunity within a structure to express yourself.
Maybe I should have used, I should just say there's a discipline.
Yes, there's a discipline. Exactly, there's a discipline that allows you to express yourself, because expression, creativity also needs structure. And that if that structure is not in place in sport, in the artistic world, it's going to express itself in other things, and not all of them necessarily positive. So we need, and football plays that part. It's the most loved sport around the world. It's very accessible. It's pretty cheap still to play, and I think that all our stakeholders within government, within sport, they need to put things in place that can speak to our people. They can't be the same paradigm that existed before. That, okay, we are a nation of talented youth, and we just let them go play in the savannah. Things have changed. The youth now, they're watching television and seeing, manicured fields, all of them looking like Wembley, and they won't accept to go to the savannah anymore and play. So we have to change with the times and put things in place that can invite the youth to come back and play. We had a very nice chat last night with the coach of the Trinidad and Tobago national team, Stephen Hart, who I think has done a terrific job. And we were speaking to these things, saying that, it's not anymore a case of, well, we used to have talent, or yes, this one used to play, and yeah, I made it big because I used to, but I played on those same. No. Now we have to adapt to the mentality. We have to adapt to a new generation. One, we know that basically feels a sense of entitlement because we've allowed it to be so. But we have to adapt to them and possibly look at new ways of bringing them into it. And enjoying those same benefits that we had as players.
David Nakhid is our guest. He is internationally known, and we are talking and moving into an area of FIFA, because that's where you're going. First of all, let's talk about the voting structure. Tell me, like listeners listen to us this morning, they're going like, okay, we'd like to support him because we know him and his ideas and what he's saying, what he's representing is nice. what can we do about it? I mean, it's not in the hands of the average Joe Blow. You must get a government supporting you in this. What is the process here?
Well, we'd like everyone to support us, and saying it's not in the hands of the average Joe Blow, it's not necessarily correct.
No, correct me, please.
We would hope that with the groundswell of support that we had across the Caribbean, that it would convince people that a Caribbean voice is needed.
Yes.
And that a Caribbean voice is indeed here. And has a measured position and has a policy and a vision that speaks to our needs, as we've discussed previously. So everyone can help. Mm-hmm. We have a social media up and running, and it's been has a tremendous support and reaction until now.
Well, let's give more people an opportunity. Give us that website they can go to.
David Nakhid for FIFA Presidency.
That's it. David Nakhid for FIFA President.
We have an excellent campaign team that's working around the clock to present our policy, our vision. I know the word manifesto gets a hard knock these days, but
tough thing to talk about these days.
Exactly. Yeah. But really, our manifesto is one that's innovative. Is one that speaks to the needs presently of the 85% of the global footballing world that's not represented at FIFA tournaments. We think that FIFA has been too parochial, and we have to start looking at the players and the stakeholders on the periphery of things. And our policy, our vision speaks to that, as along with all the other things that's in vogue at the moment, reform, development, and so forth and so on. So basically everyone can help, and they do that by expressing their support as they've done throughout the Caribbean and indeed in Trinidad and Tobago. And it's simple. We need 5 nominations. We're very close, and as a matter of fact, we're very happy with the support of the endorsed and published support of the Caribbean Football Union and their president, Gordon Derrick. We know Raymond Timke in Trinidad and Tobago is very supportive. He has been supportive, and we feel strongly that he will come on board as far as the nomination is concerned. In the end, I've been captain and player of this country for quite some time.
That's right.
And we look forward to his nomination as well. So everything is going on, and as a matter of fact, we begin to look outside of the region. We've had people go on and just Google David Nakhid. We have something like 59,000 hits, within the region and outside. In Europe now, talk of David Nakhid on that table against Michel Platini is coming on fast and strong. So I think we've done a lot of good work in the last 3 weeks. I think people realize our message has been one and is one of value, one that speaks to a line of integrity and not the normal line of patronage that we've had before.
I want to take you into, let us say that David slays Goliath, which is to say the other aspirants, and you get there as the president of FIFA. Give me your top 3 priorities to change the existing order of doing things as it relates to the Caribbean.
As it relates to the Caribbean, well, that's simple. We want to focus on development coupled with oversight and implementation. We can't just have patronage that we've had before, where someone came and gave money, turned their backs because they knew that this was basically a vote they were looking for. So a few people got rich and development was non-existent. So we're going to focus on development, but with more refined oversight and implementation. We're going to speak to also how we can bring the grassroots into focus. And by saying that, the grassroots, people talk grassroots in the Caribbean, but there's never anything that sustains grassroots development. Grassroots can't be the same as it was before. You have one coach going into a community for 1 day a week, over a course of a month. I mean, that's just not sustainable. So we speak to that as well, where we have an alternative economy within the grassroots development, like tournaments, festivals, that really accounts for the revenue inflow that will come to that part of it. And that makes it relevant to what we're doing. And that makes it relevant to the existing global football economy, not just, grassroots development. And they put out a program and they put up a PowerPoint and people come in and look at it and there's no real investment in it. No. Plus, we want to speak to a major within the region rotating the Gold Cup. We have to rotate the Gold Cup within the Caribbean to have the sort of sustainable development at the elite level. Mm-hmm. Why? Mm-hmm. The Gold Cup, and the United States spoke to it, has accounted for pushing their program forward in the last 20 years. I mean, they've gone from being 60th or 60-something in the world to being in the top 15 in the world. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing to me that the administration throughout the Caribbean, they never spoke to that and said, hey, where's our premier event that we vote for as 75.6% of the voting bloc, and we haven't even had a rotation of the Gold Cup, which can encourage infrastructural development, it can encourage partnerships with the government, and that also can bring revenue to all the member associations. So we really want to look at that, and that's not, people tend to be cynical about these things. Well, we don't have the stadium big for the Gold Cup, but you can't put the cart before the horse. You have to have something that attracts investment. No corporate and sponsors is going to come in. But if they have a Gold Cup, like we had the Cricket World Cup, then they come in and they say yes. And then we use that as leverage to say, hey, you're going to come in here, but we want some investment in grassroots.
Yes, there's the initial investment, and then there's a reinvestment.
Exactly.
And that is the reinvestment is the part that I'm looking at FIFA for, because at the end of the day, while I understand and agree with you with what should happen in the region, the governments can do so much, but most of them with some very tight budgets. But you're going to look at the biggest sport in the world and say to the organization, listen, we need to get something coming back to us because we contribute mainly to this, and something has to come back to our area. You are looking at your competition. Tell me about him a little bit. And I don't want to know about him. I want to know, are you worried about your competition? I didn't ask you here to promote him.
No. Well, to be honest, we are not worried about anything. We have a platform that we want to present, and we know where they are. Most of the prospective candidates, they have been part of that FIFA circle. So all of them have been tainted, all of them, because no one knew or no one did not know that the Caribbean was under serious threat. No one knew, no one can say they did not know that the Caribbean was being underdeveloped. They only had to look at the World Cup and the premier events and saw where our teams were at. And so when you see Michel Platini and you see Chong Moon-Joon, who basically gave money to the Haitian, when the Haitian earthquake took place, gave $250,000 or $750,000 and never really asked for it to be accounted for, then that too is part should be looked at. Because if I'm serious about development, if I'm serious about helping someone, I give money and I look for accountability for that money. And that was never done. Not by Michel Platini, not by Chong Moon-Joon, or any of the people that now propose themselves as being so interested in the Caribbean.
It sounds really good, David Nakhid, for FIFA president. It would be really nice should that be realized. We have to, and we hope that can be realized, but you've got the Gulf states with all this money that they are pouring. They've got their interest there. The United States got a serious interest there. Russia's got an interest there. Everybody's got a major interest there. So my question then is, how is our captain going out and getting the rest of the world to see the relevance, the importance to get him as FIFA president? In other words, what can you do at this level to start influencing them to take a serious look at you and what is being proposed? It's great for the region because you already articulated so wonderfully what you can do for the region. Now all those countries are wondering, what are you going to do for us? Why should we put you there?
Well, let me tell you. There are a lot of those confederations that are pretty much parallel with our own region. For example, we'll take them one by one. CAF, which is the African Confederation, exactly the same kind of problems that we have within our region that they have. The lack of serious development, players, basically a player drain, players going very early into Europe, and Europe benefiting. When you look at Oceania, it's pretty much the same. Now, when we go into Asia, you have a bit of a difference because it's such a varied place. The Asian Football Confederation. You have very wealthy countries, as you alluded to them, the Gulf states, and then you have very poor countries down towards Southeast Asia and so forth. So what you do, you don't come with one organizational blueprint for that confederation. You speak to them individually. You speak to them in terms of the blocks that they already exist, and you let them know what you can do for their particular block. For example, in the Gulf region, what is their problem? Their problem would be lack of serious participation, where they even have to bring players from outside to represent the national team. So you try to get them involved in programs that could speak to participation, wider participation among their own people. But when you speak to Southeast Asia, it's the same as in the Caribbean. Lack of development, lack of a good domestic league that could push players forward into that higher level on the international competition. Now, when you speak to UEFA, what you try to do is what can you tell UEFA? A confederation that basically has everything set up. They've had a jump start of 100 years on the rest of the confederations, and they don't want to realize that. They don't want to recognize that. Why? They want to keep the status quo. They want to keep themselves powerful, and they want to keep the rest of the confederations basically as a supply chain for their own leagues. So you have to speak to them differently and tell them, listen, for the good of the game, you have to have, for want of a better phrase, a social responsibility to the other confederations.
You, of course, are going to tell them all of this after you become president.
No.
There's some medication you don't administer premature.
Well, we know FIFA, even after our successful campaign, even after, UEFA is not going to take to that kindly because that's how UEFA have. They have a sense of habitual entitlement.
Yes.
And they think that, what they have, they should keep. And everybody else has to run after them.
And you've got a new kid on the block. It's called American exceptionalism that you have to deal with too. So,
well, the US, as always, would always seem that they could control whatever situation that they go into.
Do me a favor, don't walk into my revolution. You're trying to get to the head of people. Let's not start making those kind of waves. But at the end of the day, you're going to tell them it's in their interest. As president of FIFA,
exactly.
It's in your interest to develop the rest of the world because then you lift the standard of the game, you make it more appealing all around, essentially what we're going to say.
But a lot of people don't respond to that message. So you have to let them, sometimes you'll have to be a little heavy-handed and say, well, listen, for the good of the game, to elevate all the other confederations, you may need to take a step back. And that applies also to the US. Some people now talking about reforming the democratic process within FIFA, which is one member association, one vote, which would be totally ridiculous. And all that speaks to just maintaining of the power structure. So what we do, we speak to the US and we tell them, listen, you are part of a confederation which is CONCACAF. And that's something that the FIFA presidents are something that I will do. I will speak to them pointedly and tell them, listen, you are part of a wider region, and you are part of a region that now wants to purport itself and project itself as taking the reins of FIFA. So you come on board, and it's to your benefit. The things that you've had before, or things that were given to you before by the former leadership, by the previous leadership, you cannot have anymore. And that's the only way that we're going to elevate the game at the global level to where we want.
David Nakhid, for FIFA president, it sounds good. I love your energy. I understand clearly your commitment, and I'm sure you, as I do, recognize that it is going to be a task, but nothing is insurmountable. You took our national team, and you showed nothing is insurmountable. Josie and Leonard, I know, Josie, you work along with David here. Clarify me at exactly what you do there, because I have a couple of questions I need to ask of you.
Well, David called me from the Middle East, and he said, I'm thinking of running for the FIFA presidency. What do you think?
Were you surprised?
Well, I mean, it was a call out of the blue.
Yes.
And I said, hell yes, let's go.
Yes.
And that was it.
I love his energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you too, I see you, as David and I, we are talking there, and you're shaking your head because this is doable, but it is a task.
Of course it's a task. I mean, it's a humongous challenge. But I think that David articulated, I'm not a technical football person, but as you know, I'm a Caribbean person, I'm a
That's
global
right.
person.
That's right.
And I mean, I was listening quite intently to the interview with Gregory earlier, and when you were asking him about diversification, etc. How does this fit into what we're talking about? New development models and so?
Yes, I smart this.
This is part of that, the new cultural product.
I'm
that we
hearing him
talk about,
talking, and
you
I'm
know,
seeing
that
here already as a
you know,
revenue generating thing. Yes,
yeah,
indeed.
I mean,
Exactly.
so, and it's not that we don't recognize it. You know, last night, David and I, when we were morning, we were recounting the conversation with Stephen Hart, who I have to say I met for the first time. He's a Sando boy, big up San Fernando. So we talked a lot about his time in South and trying to get a fix on his involvement in local football. And so one of the things is that, when we talk about development and when we talk about empowering our people, our own disconnect from our accomplishments and history and so. What does that have to do with the FIFA presidency? This region, like in every other sphere, has always punched way above its weight.
Yes.
So the FIFA presidency to me is just one of those other things. It shouldn't be Trinidad and Tobago, Caribbean, CONCACAF, Africa, other regions shouldn't feel that we can't sit at the table. The chair is there, and our dear mutual friend from Guyana says his father once told him a story. You walk into a room and there's a chair at the head table, and even though somebody has said to you that that's not you, that chair is reserved for someone else, you walk and you occupy the chair.
That is what moved me so much about David, because I'm looking into his academy, I'm looking into what he's proposing to do, and he seems not bothered by the how steep the mountain is. Everest to you is something that you do in the morning. That's the way your history seemed to propose you approaching this FIFA leadership.
Well, exactly. When I spoke with my campaign team, which is varied there, we have people in London, we have people in the Middle East, we have people in America, Washington, D.C., where I went to university, and of course we have Josan Leonard here. When we spoke with them, they told me, without realizing it, that all my life experiences basically led me to this part. Whether it be my fights, my activism, my many fights with the administration here and in Lebanon as well, where the people know I was jailed for five days, and for testing the African players, the rights of African players. So it seems to me like just a normal transition, and it seems to me like a fight worth fighting for. A fight that we can really base it on a certain shared ethos among all those people that want to see something better at FIFA. So I don't see it as him being humongous. I just see it as me trying to rally the troops, so to speak, within the Caribbean and throughout the world to something that's much better that has been prepared.
And now the guy who looks as though that spot Josie spoke about is his. You just walk up and take yours.
Yes. Why not?
Yes, indeed.
Why not?
Indeed. I love the resolve. I love the contribution you've made to the game, and I love the fact that you stepped out. You see the social component in this. You see the return on investment, because we are investing every player we put that go forward. We must get something back, and we have not been getting our fair share. How can folks do better, Josie, in conclusion, to assist David in this quest? What else can be done that he has not already articulated?
Well, I mean, he's doing very well in articulating it, and what's going to come out in the coming weeks and so timing would be more information on some specifics. People want to know, what do you represent? I mean, but this is the philosophical period and speaking to some of those specifics. But I think it's really about our cultural confidence. I think it's about each and every single Trinbagonian and every diaspora person and every football loving person who understands the broader ramifications of the power of the game, not just at the elite level, but the ability to win hearts and minds, to channel young people, girls and boys, teenagers, whatever, into very productive paths. For them to be able to realize as well that if they so chose, that there is a path for them to become an accomplished athlete in football. And then first to realize in terms of our countries and economies that we get a return on investment, that we're not just the downloaders, but that we can be the uploaders, media rights, merchandising, big events, sports tourism, sports and heritage tourism. So, I mean, we cover, this is a game changer, Rennie. It's a game changer.
Yes, indeed.
So, to every person listening to the program this morning, go up on the Facebook page. It's really been very sort of low key at the moment because we've been focused on the things that we need to focus on, which is
We've
getting
got
the
folks from
nominations.
all over the world who
Yeah.
stream us here
Exactly.
at 107. So follow the instructions you're about to get because
Yeah.
we've got to support David on this one.
Yeah, it's David Nakhid for FIFA Presidency 2016. That's the Facebook page. We just launched it. A lot more work is going to be done. We're going to have to launch a campaign fund as well. I always think about Obama. And that's where you've been for a couple of decades. You know, what they did with social media, how the grassroots, or what we call grassroots organizing for America, got involved. People pledged $5, $10. So we're getting to all of those things. In essence, we all have a stake in advancing our cause.
And that is why I'm so happy that he articulated what the region can benefit from and the policies he would like to see change. Because yes, it makes the case that we are stakeholders in this game for David.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. The name is David, David, Nakhid. I'm speaking for those who are going up to Google and you get into Facebook. All right. The last name is Nakhid. Get up there, and when they get there, what you want them to do?
Post your comments, post your support, and that page is actually going to be able in the next couple of weeks, or not going to be able, but is going to roll out specific kinds of things. I mean, we're going to have campaign machinery put in place beyond the core strategy team right now. So it's like anything. I mean, are we in campaign season right now, right? So, I mean, it's kind of dwarfed, but I think right after the elections as well, we'll be able to speak to the constituencies that are not so taken up now with what's going to happen on September 7th. That's the local audience.
Yes,
but for everybody else, I mean, this is a serious thing. I'm really heartened by persons in the diasporas, for example, and even David's profile, because he's someone who's worked in Europe. I mean, I was absolutely amazed to be on the receiving end of phone calls from people who are just names to me, really, pushing him on, saying, go brother, whatever it is. So
his worldview is going to be
the worldview. I mean, he's a man who speaks 5 languages, you know what I mean? So, I mean, he could bust a French on you right now. Not the French that I would bust, right? We have a Caribbean candidate who, like all of us and most of us, are global citizens. That's where we beat them, Rennie, because they're so parochial, even, in the US, somebody's in New York and they don't know what's going on the West Coast. But we are people who are universal people. This is where everybody converged,
I was moved when he said Lebanon and Trinidad and Tobago, look in the mirror. After you land, it is the same situation, the same desires.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Rennie.
And I thank you so much for coming in this morning. And for all your work you have done, we are grateful. And you're here for our independence, so happy independence to you.
And thank you so much for having us.
Happy independence to all Trinidad and Tobago and the wider region.
The future president, I'm optimistic. If we do our work the way you're planning it, we can get David Nakhid inside there for president of FIFA. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care now.